Please, um, briefly related it to our country in a bullet form with about 400 words.
Okay, very. Thank you, Najatu. I hope for the sake of other colleagues, you read it again, once again. Out,
Okay, sir.
out of 3 units,
Yes,
take any one unit
yes,
uh, and then make a gist of the unit. Yeah, that's what I said.
yes, sir.
Take a gist of the unit. While preparing that, you give the examples from your own country also, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Najatu has clearly noted down. Thank you very much, Najatu. Thank you. I
You're
think,
welcome.
yeah. Have you done any exercise, Najatu?
Yes, sir. I did based on our own country here in Nigeria.
You have done something. Okay, I will come back to you. Uh, any other colleague who have done that exercise? What I said is, last time we discussed 3 units. I think out of the 3 units, take any one unit of your choice, and then prepare the summary or the gist of the unit in say a page or two, not big thing. And then while preparing the gist, anything relevant to your own country or your own institution, just relate it. That's what I said. Yeah. Najatu has said. Anybody else? Okay. Maybe we have attendance is very less, but we cannot wait for them indefinitely. It's already 12 minutes past 3 according to my time. So naturally, we waited for 15 minutes. Let us start. Uh, I request Najatu if she can present briefly what she has done, and then I will go for my presentation. Najatu, you are there?
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you can briefly explain.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, good. She has prepared also. Very good. Very good. Yeah. If she is presenting it, maybe yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe you have to take screen like that. अरे आ जाओ क्या हुआ क्या हाँ, बोलो ठंड तो अभी अभी evaluation होके कल गए थे वो सीडी भी लगा अपलोड इट इन डे और टू
So, is it visible?
yeah yeah can you Najatu I am seeing it can you enlarge a bit I think it is in a word yeah you read it no problem it's a small letters if you can
Okay.
increase the size that will be good
Is it visible now?
yeah little better but yeah little better. Yeah, I think if it can you do a little more, that will be visible to everybody, and then you can explain it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You explain it, no problem. I think if increasing it is problematic to you, don't worry. Go ahead.
Okay. I use the management of education system on, from the unit 2. So
Unit
under
two.
the
Yeah.
government, yes, under the government and its agencies, I
Hmm.
will be using the government of Nigeria
Good.
and its educational agencies and the roles they play, which is very vital because they influences the future generations. Um, the educational agencies and their departments are created by government to local training and sources and more efficient. They are essential because they have to ensure smooth running of the whole educational system, coordinating and managing. In Nigeria here we have about
Excuse me, please. Please, I want to suggest if Mrs. Najatu
Yeah,
can make his screen horizontal, I think it
yeah.
will capture more.
Yeah, she,
If she can make it horizontal, it will capture more.
you can guide her, Moses. You guide her. Yeah, Moses, you guide her. Yeah, she may not be able to do it. She's finding it difficult.
I don't think I
Okay, okay. Go
fix.
ahead, go ahead. Let her explain it. Let her explain that. We'll come back. Yeah, yeah. She listed the various institutions responsible for education in Nigeria. I think National University Commission and Joint Admissions of Matriculation Board, West African Examinations Council, National Examination Council, National Business and Technical Education Board, Teachers Registration Council. So these are the various agencies. Okay, Najatu? Yeah. Responsible for education in the country of Nigeria. I think she started explaining each one of them. I think what are the roles of that each agency? Yeah, I think NUC to approve academic programs in universities like University Grants Commission in India. Am I correct, Najato?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So approve academic programs, approve the establishment of the universities. This is the function of NUC, and these functions are performed in Indian countries. University Grants Commission (UGC). That's good way of doing that. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board conducting unified tertiary matriculation exams. I think that's how she has pointed out. That's good. So what is next? You have anything else? Yeah, second page is there. Yeah, you scroll it. Yeah, NTI. NTI is a training of teachers offering distance education. WAEC to organize the significance of O-level examination. Yeah, that's good. For West African countries, ensuring the education standards and are met during examinations. NEC, the body, conduct basic education certificate, organize national common entrance certificate examination, very good. And then NABTEB conducting mm, exam towards for students who wish to institutions and colleges, and to determine who is considered a teacher in Nigeria, to create standards. Very good. I think she has listed each agency wise the various tasks. I think that's a good way of presenting. Of course, she did not relate it to the university, I mean Indian context, but she could do that in doing the assignment or the activity that she could do. Okay, in the Nigeria case, this is the agency performing this role. In case of India, this is the UGC, this is the AICTE, All India Council of Technical Education. This is the activity performed by NCTE. That she could have linked up that, but otherwise, good effort, Najatu. Good, very good effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. That's how in a assignment also, though it is not there in the material, anywhere you can give a relevant example from your country specific or institution. Try to do that. Okay, that is the one. So let me come back to the our any other anybody who has read the block 2 of this course before coming to this class. Any one of you had glanced through the block 2? Block 2. Block 2 is the management of higher education. In the block 1, we touched upon various systems and what are the various agencies involved. In the education, imparting education in the country, whether school, higher education, or professional education. That's what broadly we touched upon the block one, the 4 units we discussed. And then today we are touching upon the block two, that's the management of higher education. In this we have five units, and there's 5 units are there. First unit, higher education in India, retrospect and prospect. But as I told in the previous classes, Indian higher education is one of the biggest networks in the world. I think maybe after or equivalent to that of the USA, United States of America. Even China has the higher education network very largest in terms of number, institution in terms of enrollment, in terms of number of programs. In India is almost at the equal footing as far as the higher education is concerned. Maybe I have to go for the presentation. Yeah. Entered screen. Yeah. Share. Share. Can you see the slide? Hello? Can you see the
Yes,
slide?
sir.
Pardon?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, good. You can see and you can hear me. As I said that, and this block two is management of higher education, and then you have seen the second slide.
Yes, sir.
In this block, we have 5 units, and the first unit is higher education in India, retrospect and prospect. So I'll be focusing the important features of Indian higher education, which is the largest in the world. And after that, unit 2, we'll be talking about the higher education, the developing countries. So from India, we are going little broader in the developing countries, whether it's African countries, Asian countries, or any other developing country. What is the educational scenario? Maybe the issues which we will be discussing in higher education in India, challenges, more or less same in case of higher education as well. Yeah, in the developing countries as well. After that, higher education, how it is transforming, how it is drastically changing in the globalized world. I think you all know that in the name of globalization, with the cross-border education and the transnational education, the things are changing. How these things are changing in the globalized world, particularly higher education. We'll see that. In the unit 4, we talk about management of higher education at the systemic level. That's in the country. So I may draw the examples of Indian scenario, but as Najatu explained, each one of you can relate it. What is your country scenario when I'm explaining the Indian one? And the last unit of this block, management of higher education institutional level. So these are the 5 units. Maybe we'll start first unit. This. Let us move to the first unit. Can you see the slide? Yeah. Unit 1, higher education in India, retrospect and prospect. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. A very colorful slide, isn't it? Yeah. In this, we talk about it. What is the introduction of the? One second. One second. One second. Yes, yes, yes. Government and national policies, and every country will have the government, how the government is managing education, what are the various policies at the national level, and the education system in the country we'll talk about in this section. After that, India was under the British rule for a longer time, almost how many years? Almost about 200 years, I think, British rule, and the birth of modern university, how it happened, and the government's role in after independence. We got independence in the year 1947. now almost 75 years plus. What is the role of government in independent country? What are the various national policies that occurred in the countries after the independence? What are the reviews that have been undertaken, and what are the reforms that have been implemented and brought into the education system? Focusing particularly higher education, we'll talk about that. Rule of state governance, as we have the country. India is a the mix of many states and provinces. We have almost around 30 states and provinces put together, we call India, and each province has their own government and their own education system. At the central level, at the union level, we have the union government, and of course, union government also will play a role in the spread of education in consultation with the provinces and the government. And then we talk about what are the various institutions and the enrollment scenario, what are the regional imbalance, all those things we talk about. And then we'll continue in the unit. What are the resources for education, various resources that are available, the private sector in Indian higher education, how the naturally private sector is entering in a larger scale. The same scenario with other countries, and then open universities, how they are emerging, and what is the quality and excellence, what are the benchmarks, parameters, efforts. After that, from elite-based higher education is seen everywhere in the developing countries, including India. It's only not the common man who can afford higher education. Elite-based higher education to masses. How the things are going on. What are the various structures? What are the processes? Curriculum, autonomy, governance, accreditation of universities. I think we'll be discussing. And this is a big unit. I think looking ahead in the future, technologies and their impact, role of research, the reforms. Let us start. These are the various important units, issues which we will be discussing in the unit. I think let me, somebody is waiting to get admitted. Uh, yeah, I think we have to, let me, yeah. Uh, oh, can you see the slide? Noted. Can you see the slide? Yeah, yeah, not it. Okay, let me bring back. Okay, those are the major issues I think we'll be discussing. I will go a bit, not very elaborate, but certainly main points and these headings, what we have touched upon, because these are the issues which will be common to your country, whether it is Nigeria, whether it is Zimbabwe, whether it is Zambia, Mauritius.
Hello, hello, sir.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew.
Would Muhammad switch off the mic? Muhammad.
Mr. Muhammad, switch off your mic. Yeah.
It's like it's Mr. Saliu. Mr. Saliu.
Saliu,
Yes, sir.
Saliu, Mr. Saliu, please switch off your mic.
Okay, sir.
Please, giving noise so that others cannot listen. Unless you want to ask a question or something, please try to switch off the mics. Okay. Whenever you want to feel like asking me, raise your hand and switch off the mic. Switch on the mic and talk. Okay. Let me go back to the presentation. What I am telling is the issues what I have explained so far will be common to any developing country, your country or my country. And actually, I will go a bit detailed so that it will be more relevant to any developing nation as well. Is it okay? Let me start the presentation. Yeah, the slide is visible.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have given the broad content what we are going to discuss in this unit. Introduction to unit, retrospect and Indian higher education. What was it, and what will be the future of it? Both retrospect and prospect. We'll talk about it. Highlights the education system during British rule. What education system it was in the British rule of this country, and after the independence, how the higher education has been transformed with the help of many commissions, many committees. And then it further highlights the growth and expansion. As I said, it's a tremendous growth of higher education in the country, whether in terms of institution, in terms of student enrollment, in terms of the number of academic programs here. That we will be talking about it. And then once we discuss it, these issues will, what are the objectives we will achieve at the end of this unit is describe the origins of modern Indian university. What is the modern university education in India and its development till independence, that's the British period. Analyze the developments of higher education after independence, that we will talk about it. Explain the role of national government in policy formulation, we'll talk about it. And then identify the achievements and failures with respect to access, equity, and quality. They are very important issue for any country. We'll talk about that. So these are the broad objectives we will achieve at the end of the unit. So let us come back. The government, national policies, and the education system pre-independence. Pre-independence, that is before independence. I told you the country got independence in 1947. Before that, it was the British rule. Yeah. Pre-independence developments, report of the University Education Commission in 1949. 1949, just after 2 years of independence of India, a commission was appointed by the government of India. What is that commission? The commission's name is University Education Commission, under the chairmanship of a very renowned teacher at that time, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan Commission. He was the chair of this commission. And then, of course, later that person, Dr. Radhakrishnan, became the president of India also a little later. So it's a very important commission which reviewed the higher education status after the independence, where we stand. What we did before independence, India had a long tradition of learning and scholarship dating back to the dawn of civilization. I think even the British period, the almost 200 years of British rule in this country, we had a very strong civilizational, the revolution of civilization, etc. And then we have the ancient epics, what we call, like Vedas and Upanishad, that constitute the core of ancient Indian thought. I think these Vedas and Upanishad reflects what Indian philosophy was, what Indian thinking was. I think those things were transmitted, the crux of Vedas were transmitted from generation to generation through oral discussions, through preachings, and otherwise organized learning happened in the two universities, Takshashila and Nalanda, the two universities, and the pre-independence period. They started formally teaching the ancient culture, the rich tradition of Indian thinking and philosophy. Appears to have included the Vedas also in the 18th arts of medicine, surgery. I think it was such a strong thing. So it's not only the philosophy we talked about in these Vedas and that. I think it has crossed also the medicine, surgery, astronomy, astrology, agriculture, accountants. These are it's not only restricted to philosophy, even the scientific based subjects are also were dealt in this Vedas and Upanishad. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. Then, of course, Nalanda was a Buddhist center. I think that the university, established university in the pre-independence period, where the students spent the number of years studying Vedas and Upanishads at this university, and the very old institution, Nalanda and Takshashila. Of course, when the various invasions happened in the country, this biggest university, Nalanda, where the students were taught the strength of Vedas and Upanishads, was destroyed in the wars and fights. This is common things. And then, of course, some Hindu centers of learning in the east and south continued. Muslim rulers occupied the large parts of India, and then, of course, that the impact of Muslim culture also came in. And then, of course, it was the Buddhism earlier. After that, the Muslims invasion and Muslims occupancy, and their effect also there. However, the curriculum of these colleges include grammar. It's not only their philosophy, it's the grammar, rhetoric, logic, law, all those things were taught in these institutions. I think that was the very good strength of that one. And after that, of course, what I explained, so for the Buddhist philosophy or the Muslims and other rulers, that was before 16th century. So that was during the 16th century, the Britishers entered and started ruling the country. I think that's where the beginning of the what you call the modern Indian higher education is the establishment of three universities by the British during the British government, during the British rule. Three universities were established in 1857 for the sudden increase in the number of aspirants. I think with the establishment of three universities, I think many common people wanted to aspire the university education. That's how the number of colleges went up also from 27 to 75 colleges, three universities continued, and the number of students also gradually increased from 50,000 students in 92, and later there was no substantial increase in the number of colleges between that. The two universities at Patna, in the Banaras and Patna, were founded in, apart from the three universities in the beginning, 1857, 1916, 17, and there are three more universities, two more universities. As many as 25 universities by independence. But we got independence in 1947. By 1949, the British rule itself, and after the British rule, the Indian government, India got independence in 47. By 1947, we have 25 universities established, and while some of these were teaching universities and some of them were affiliating universities. Affiliating universities means the colleges in the university jurisdiction are affiliated to the respective university, and then colleges only teach the students for the programs which they are enrolled, but respective university will award the degrees. It is the conduct exams and award the degrees by the respective university. So that's what we call the affiliating. We will enter into this a little later also, what is the affiliating universities and etc. The government's role after independence, India became free in 47, it became a democratic republic. In the year 1950, we have the very strong constitution. I think, I don't know, your countries have a written constitution, and then, but Indian constitution is a written document, very strong document. I think that was the strength of the country. The post-independence phase marked the transition of Indian higher education. That's what I said. I think before independence, very few people used to afford the higher education in the country. After independence, the education has become higher education has become an instrument for change and development. I think that's how it happened. After independence, the first commission, what I've already explained, the Radhakrishnan Commission or University Education Commission, 1948. I think that even Dr. Radhakrishnan was the chair of the commission, and he reviewed the higher education system and then gave a significant recommendations. One of the major recommendations of this commission was establish the University Grants Commission. I think that was this recommendation. Later, he gave a recommendation in 1949. I think University Grants Commission came into existence in the year 1956 after the recommendation of this commission, converting the universities initially and later extended to cover all the universities. The proposed UGC, according to the commission, should be an expert body that can assess the financial needs, determine, I think, the role of UGC. We'll talk about later. I think that's how the Radhakrishnan Commission recommendations are very, very valid, not only at that point of time, and some of those recommendations are valid even till today, because the commission, the chair, and the members were visionaries. Naturally, that visionaries have given recommendations of such a great thing. Yeah. The proposed UGC would also be responsible for setting the standard. That's what we have already discussed. This recommendation of the 1949 Commission recommendation came to the implementation, and that UGC Act came and it was established in the year 1956. I think that's what exactly. Yeah. The major responsibilities: promotion, coordination of higher education in the country, assessment financial needs and allocation of resources to the universities and colleges, advising universities as well as both the government, central and provincial governments, on measures necessary for improvement of standards, etc., is the major responsibility of the University Grants Commission. And then we have some more policies and reviews of the higher education system. After Radhakrishnan Commission in the year 1966, and a mere comprehensive review of education in India was undertaken by the Education Commission. This is 1966. It was the first major commission reviewed the education at various levels. In earlier case, Radhakrishnan Commission reviewed only the higher education, but this commission of 1966 reviewed the education not only from the primary, elementary, secondary, and tertiary education. So in that way, it is a total review of the education system in the country after the independence of the country. This is the important point. Education, higher education in particular, had always engaged the attention of the government of India. Various committees set up by the governments, UGC determined directions. UGC contributed the policy formulation so that the universities and colleges follow the policies to strengthen the higher education system in that country. And after that, an expert committee in 1974 that looked at the issue of minimum qualifications. What should be the qualifications for teachers of higher education? What should be their salary package or compensation packages? This is a specific purpose. The expert committee, Sen was the person who chaired that. That's why it's called the Sen Expert Committee in 74. I specify. So this is a 66 policy was a very holistic, touching across the levels of education, starting from primary to higher. Here, this is a what should be the qualifications. Only specific area this committee, expert committee, reviewed it. That's one. And then, after that, 1968, there is a policy was comprehensive review. I think that 1966 policy earlier slide we discussed. After that, after a gap of almost roughly 20 years, 66 policy of 20 years. In 1986, the government came up with another major policy. What are the policy? Major thrust of 86 policy after 20 years. Consolidation and expansion of facilities. That's important recommendation of the 86. So you consolidate the benefits of the universities and colleges and conferring autonomous status and selected good colleges. Why don't you give autonomous status rather than controlling them more? So if you control the colleges in the universities, naturally they are not autonomous. They have to depend on the government, they have to depend on other agencies. But if you give the autonomy, then naturally they will be free to innovate and free to upgrade their quality, etc. Redesigning of courses and programs to respond to the needs of specialization. I think another major recommendation came in policy is program should be relevant to the present day society. I think that's very important. Transformation of the teaching and learning process to technology way. I think 86 policy said that. I think we have to use the technology significantly if you want to compete with the rest of the world, whether the technology for curriculum development, material development, professional competency development, etc. Enhance support for research universities. Research is another important the function of any university system in the country. I think that has to be strengthened. Expansion of open. This is another major recommendation to the 86 policy. The open university and education system has to be expanded and strengthened. These are the significant recommendations of the policy of 86. Establishment of a national agency for coordinated development of higher education across all sectors. I think this is not only general higher education, the 86 policy proposed to have such a body, an agency in the country, which sees the general higher education, agricultural higher education, legal higher education, medical higher. I think this is what the recommendation. But at the moment, let me say that we have a separate agencies taking care of each of these one. What is that? Higher education, general higher education is taken care by the University Grants Commission, as I said earlier, and agricultural education is taken care by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. Legal education is taken care by the Bar Council of India. Medical education is Medical Council. Technical education by All India Council of Technical, like that. But this 86 recommendation, the policy recommendation came, instead of having too many bodies, why can't we have a unified body to take care of all the things? I think that 1986 recommendation has not come into force. Maybe this government, again, I will touch upon when we were discussing the latest policy, the unified body for all the professional, general education, technical education to come together. That's a positive recommendation. But the body has yet to emerge. The efforts are on, the governmental efforts are on. And then role of the state governments and the growth of higher education in India. I think what is the role of higher, as I said that the education is in the concurrent list of the constitution, where the responsibility lies with both the government, provincial government and the union government, the central government, both. And how the higher education expanded, institutional enrollment. I think you can see that this is the little old data. It is only the data of 2008. I am giving the figure now. 2022, a number of universities from 431, we have universities 1,000 plus. Precise number, I will pass it on to you later. This is almost 1,000 universities, both public funded and private institutions. And the number of colleges, 700 in 1950 to 20,000 odd in 2008. Now this number of colleges have gone up to around 40,000 colleges in the country, which are imparting higher education. I think number of teachers, 5.5 lakh. Now it is the teachers number is 2022. We are 5 lakhs to 15 lakhs means 1.5 million. 1.5 million. 1.5 million teachers now as on okay. You see the growth how 1,000 universities, 40,000 colleges, and then 1.5 million teachers, and the students enrollment is almost I'd say a number of almost I think 3 crores is equal to almost more than 50 million, around 50 million students in the higher education sector. I think that's how the significant growth in terms of number. And then now come to the enrollment in higher education by levels, enrollment by major disciplines, regional and social imbalances, enrollment of girls, resources for higher education, private, what is the role played by private sector, what is the role by open universities and distance education. These are the various dimensions of Indian higher education system which we will be talking about. Yeah, quality and excellence. Yeah, from as I said in the around independence or pre-independence, it is a higher education cannot be afforded by everybody. That's what it is called as a elite-based education. From there to mass education, anybody, any member can aspire for higher education and should get higher education. I think that's where the numbers, what I explained in the previous slide, will speak how the higher education from elite to it has become a mass education in terms of numbers. And what are the various structures, what are the various processes involved, what is the curriculum, autonomy and governance, accreditation, how these number of universities, 1,000 universities and colleges are accredited with their agency. All these are the issues that we have to talk about. Yeah, I think the challenges of globalization, technologies and their impact on education, the role of research, and what should be the reform agenda. And these are the issues which we discussed in the Unit 1. I think let me stop it and then yeah. Yeah. Um, few students who are waiting. I think I have admitted. Hope all of them will be joining. Yeah. That's the various aspects of the thing. And yeah. So anybody want to ask anything? The major features of Indian higher education, we talked about it, and then I briefly highlighted it. Maybe once we go through the unit, we will realize it, the issues, the social imbalances in their education, and the quality, and how these colleges are managed. All these are the issues which will be confronted by the any uh, university. Anything you want to ask? So on this,
Yes,
yeah. Who is asking? Yeah.
Matthews.
Matthews, ask your question.
Yeah, actually, was following the. I think you presented on the should be the second slide from the last,
Yeah, yeah,
where you were showing the how the education has improved in India from
yeah.
1950
Hmm,
to
hmm,
around
hmm,
2008.
hmm,
Yeah, there you mentioned of that by 1950 there were about 25 universities.
hmm.
But by 2008 there were 431.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I believe that by 1950 it was 3 years after India got independence from 1947.
yeah.
Now
India,
my
yeah, yeah. Got independence at 1947. Yes.
yes, now,
Yeah.
now my question is,
Hmm,
what made the colonial government, that is Britain,
hmm,
not to put more effort on the education, since if you can check the years from 1950 to
hmm.
2008,
Ah,
25 universities to 431, we
yeah.
can say that India on its own after gaining independence,
Hmm.
it did a number of achievements as far as education is concerned.
Okay,
What made
Matthews.
Britain not be interested in
Yeah,
the education system?
you asked a very right question, Matthews. What could be the reason from your point of view? Why the British government did not put efforts? What after independence Indian government had put? What could be the reasons?
Yeah, maybe my colleagues should help me that's why I've asked it.
Okay, Matthews has thrown the ball to the other colleagues. Yeah. Anybody wants to answer uh, hmm, what Matthews raised it? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I personally think that the whole reason why India didn't want, I mean, Britain didn't want to invest in education was to keep the masses unaware of what was happening.
Yeah.
In the sense that when they know their rights, when they know what they deserve, they would
Mm,
uh, they would go back to them, like do riots at them.
mm.
So they wanted to keep the mass ignorant, and then that's why they were not much invested into the education. So that they don't have to be
Wilson,
approached like, why are you doing this?
Wilson, you are from which country?
I'm from Malawi. Malawi.
Malawi. Okay, that's a good
Yes.
explanation Wilson has
Thank
given.
you.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What Wilson? I will continue from there. I think Matthews asked a very right question. Why the British government did not promote education to such an extent? As soon as you got the independence, you expanded. That's his question. Yes. The colonial rulers, in this case, it was the Britishers. Uh, they don't want to give a higher education. They don't want to give a quality higher education, because if you give a quality higher education, you will become a enlightened citizen, you will become a competent citizen, and you will question your ruling colonial rule. This is my country, why you are here. So naturally, it was a selective, there was a demand. There was a demand from the society. That's why they could not stop it totally. So it was a very cautiously started the one or two universities in the beginning, 1857, two universities, and 1916, 17, there are another two, three like that. So they are very clear that the main reason is they don't want to provide the higher education to everybody, which will be maybe, which will become a strength to the society or the weakness to the ruler. So they may revolt, they may demand big positions. All these are the issues. But why they started few? Because the pressure, the mounting pressure on higher education, they could not stop it totally, so they started slowly expand. I think, Matthews, that is the explanation to you. Is it okay? I think that's the explanation to everybody. The colony, whether it is a Britisher, in our country there may be some other colonial ruler, whether it's from other. So the crux is that their vision to develop your society or my society was limited. The British got education where they used to give a limited education at the school level also, where then I will be helping them in their ruling the country. So that type of a narrow-mindedness, even while providing the education at the school level or at the tertiary level. I think, is it okay? Yeah. Let me move to the, if you don't have any. Yes, Wilson, is it okay? Yeah.
It's fine, sir. It's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, Matthews, you are convinced with the explanation? Yeah. Okay. Let me move to the presentation. We will talk about the second unit of this block 2. That is the higher education. What we discussed in the India-specific context, or now the developing countries, that may be true to your country or my country or anybody else's. We will talk about that. Yeah. Can you see the slide, block 2, unit 2? Hello? Can you see the slide, block 2, unit 2, my
Yes,
dear
sir.
friends?
We can.
Yes, sir. We are seeing.
That is the unit 2, higher education in the developing countries, and overview. That's what we'll be talking about. Okay? And then what are the issues we'll be discussing in this unit broadly? You can see the slide. Wait. The higher education scenario in the developed world. What is the higher education scenario in terms of enrollment, in higher education, in terms of access, equity, and cost? Is the access is available to all the groups, the community, society of the higher education, and what are the costs involved? And then higher education in the developing countries. We're talking about that. Higher education and the market. What is the relation between the higher education and the market? The present day, you know that, and the competitive market and the highly specialized market is demanding the quality higher education graduates. What is the common inheritance across the countries of developing countries? Some are the commonalities of, some of the differences of. You take whether it is a Nigeria, whether it is a Malawi, whether it is a Zambia, whether it is a India. There are few similarities and there are few differences in higher education systems. That we will touch upon that. And then universities in the developing countries, what are the structures, what are the various strategies and approaches, management of higher education in the developing countries, how you manage it, what are the administrative, university finances, academic community, students. These are the issues which we will be talking about. And then, of course, in this unit, we present an overview of higher education in in various countries. That's what I said, particularly developing or the third world countries, and the commonalities and variations that we'll touch upon that. And then once you complete the unit, we'll be describe the status of our education, explain the major commonalities and variations, examine the financial management, uh, and then examine the financial management, analyze the curricular and language issues in running these institutions in the developing countries. That's what. And then, yeah, now we'll start the higher education scenario in the developed world. Post-secondary education, yeah, higher education starts in any country, in our country also. Uh, After completing the school education, post-secondary education, tertiary education starts. The international definition of tertiary education divided into parts: higher education and further education. Also, sometimes we call it as a further education. Higher education qualifications at degree level. I think this is maybe the same in our country also. In the degree, after the plus two, after the secondary, the post-secondary, the degree starts. It's a minimum of 3 to 4 years. In some countries, we have it. In India also, we have a 3 years graduation, and maybe it's same as in our countries. In some countries, they follow the Western pattern. That's the 4 years of graduation. I think in India, general higher education so far is 3 years, general higher education, except professional education. That's like a medicine, professional education like engineering, we are the 4 years. But all general education, whether it is arts, humanities, sciences, social sciences, mathematics, all these things are 3 years. But the latest policy, you can note down because that may not be available in the material. In the year 2020, the present government came out with a new education policy, the national policy, national policy on education 2020, NPU 2020. There, the policy directed all the governments, provincial and to have the general higher education also not 3 years, it should be 4 years. So that's what is the 4 years. Like professional programs are said 4 years. That's what the recommendation. I think few universities started the 4 years degree courses, and majority of them are yet to start it, because for moving to 3 to 4 years, you have a significant shift. And actually, if it is a 4 years, when earlier it is a 3 years graduation plus 2 years post graduation. Now it is a 4 years graduation. The post graduation should be from come down to 2 years to 1 year. I think this is the policy suggested it, and it is just started. So how it will take us in future, how the students will be faring this reform, we have to wait and see. But this is an experimentation. This is an innovation, we call it. And then at a level which would qualify one to work in a professional field. After 3 years or 4 years of professional education, actually graduates will be absorbed in the market. That's what is going on. Is usually taught in an environment which also includes advanced research activity. Yeah, what is the research also explained, because after 3 years graduation, students are going for the 2 years post graduation. Once they complete the 2 years post graduation, they used to go for the PhD, doctoral work. That is advanced research activity. Simply put, higher education generally means university level education is consisting of all these things. As I said, the things are changing. I think that's where the things will be moving. Yeah. Further education generally includes those postgraduate studies by pursuing which one can gain master's and doctoral degrees. As I said that after 3 years graduation, 2 years master's degree, and after completing master's degree in a particular discipline, you will be moving to do the PhD work, which will lead to the doctoral degrees. I think you are all aware of it. Master's degree, for instance, takes 2 years of completion, while doctoral degree awarded for a particular course takes 3 to more than 3 years, a minimum 3 years per PhD for the doctoral work, and some cases it is more than 4 years or 5 years. And that's how they think. World, more than 50% of the age group of 18 to 20 are now enrolled in higher education institution. I think this is what we call the gross enrollment ratio in the world. That means The eligible age group, 18 to 23, after finishing the secondary school, the student has to enroll in the higher education. This is the age group, 18 plus 23 should be enrolled in the higher education institute, the colleges or the universities. I think it was around 50% of eligible group are enrolled in these institutions. I think that particularly in the developing countries, this has gone up. Developed nations, it has gone up to almost 80% or 90%. For the United States of America, almost 90% of the eligible age groups are entered into that. And some other countries, it is 80 countries. But in the developing countries, particularly country like you, I don't know what is the gross enrollment ratio of this age group who are enrolling. But in India, with all these efforts and gigantic network, what I explained so far, the huge network of 40,000 colleges, 1,000 universities, few thousands of professional institutions put together, only 28% of eligible age group are enrolled. Okay? When the 28% only enrolled, what about the rest of the, how much is it? 72%. 72% who are coming out of the school system after secondary stage of this age group, not entering into the higher education. Where are they? Maybe they are not able to get the enrollment entry into the higher education institution, or few of them must have got the jobs, and few of them must be working, entered into the life after marrying, all those things reason. But any developing country or any democratic country, if you want that the eligible age group, that 18 to 23 group, maximum students should be enrolled in higher education institution. If individually they want to prosper, individually, and even a society, even a country wants to prosper, large number of people of this eligible group. So naturally, our country's effort is only 28% of them are enrolled. What about 72? That's why the opportunities for education, higher education, increase the enrollment in the general regular colleges and universities. That also is not sufficient. Then you should go for alternatives like distance education and open learning and the online education, technology based. So these are the various efforts are going on. They pursue a and post-common knowledge, skills, competencies. Along with the enrollment, it's the skills, knowledge, skills, competence are required to sustain the global economy. Of course, if we are producing the graduate or a postgraduate without relevance to the present day society, that will not help them. Hello? 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 Yes? Okay, okay. Captain, sorry to hear the father's. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Take care. Okay. Sorry, friends. Yeah, I think the graduate should have a knowledge, should have a skills and competencies required for the job market, particularly in the global economy. If you don't have the import to these type of things, relevant skills, relevant competence, knowledge, your graduates will be unemployed. Your graduates will not be coping with the new challenges. So naturally, so this is the very thing. One is the number, other one is the what knowledge you are you will be imparting, what type of graduates you are proceeding. So this is the term higher education is now with interchangeably used. I think whether you call it the higher education, whether you call it the university education, today you use something. Today, though universities are not the only option in the post-secondary education, they attract maximum attention to in the third world. Post-secondary education is gaining the momentum, particularly in the third world developing nations. I think the governments are looking at it, how to strengthen the higher education systems in the respective countries. The countries which are termed as developed or industrially advanced with about 50% of world populations of their yeah, this is, you know, that developed countries are with a maximum resources and a minimum population. The rest of the developing nations is the minimum resources and maximum population. I think where the political side student can understand this type of thing. What we call developed world is a north versus south. So this is how it is termed, but we will not enter into that. Yeah. Enrollment in higher education. I think we have talked about post-secondary education or higher education, phenomenal expansion in every country. I think maybe including our country, every country of the world. Martin has written, transition from elite to, this is what we used it, elite to mass, and then university higher education to industrialized nations. I think the education, higher education is expanding in every country, but still some countries are ahead of it, some countries are behind it. The mid-90s, while the proportion of increased 70% of the United States, Indian countries include France, etc., 50%. This is what I said in the previous slides. The gross enrollment ratio in the developed nations like USA, the France, Germany, and this is the 50% is the old figure. It is now touching upon 80%, 90% in some countries, or 70% in some countries. Certainly, ahead the developed world is ahead of the developing nations. Like as I said, India, we are still with a large expansion, with the number of network. We are having still 28% of the eligible age group. What about the rest of the 72? Where they will go? They will go without higher education. How long they can go without higher education? If you want a democratic country, I should enroll as many as students in the higher education institution. I think they should provide the, when if you don't provide the higher education, they will not be able to compete in the job market. If I don't have higher education, I cannot aspire for it. If you give me a higher education as a country or government, then I can at least aspire to have a better way, better good job, and better way of life. That's how we talk about it. And then, of course, access, equity, and cost are the important factors in any country's development. I think India is a very diverse country. And then we have the very large country with a population of almost 1400 million population. I think is a huge country with a different geographical, different physical, different cultural, different linguistic, very diversity. And in such a diverse country, to provide higher education to all groups, access is not an easy thing. You have to have a real plans, you have to have a real things. Equity. So there are the few groups which are developed and they're catching higher education fast, and there are few marginalized groups, socially, economically disadvantaged groups, who to provide the. So then, if you want to have an equity in higher education, you have to concentrate on all the groups. And cost to continue remain the major concern of higher education. I think the costs are huge, particularly higher education. Why the common man is not in a position to afford higher education? The costs are high. I think those costs have to be seen that where the common man can afford it. If your common man cannot afford it, if government can subsidize it, if government can give the scholarships, these are the various issues involved in the cost. And social and economic disparities, I've already explained. In inequality of access of higher education. Why the inequality in the access of higher education? Various factors which I have explained. It is the social inequality, it is the language barrier, it is the social development barrier. All those things are. In most countries, there is a strong socio-economic filter to higher education. Yeah, many countries, when you don't have the provision, students will not come and join. When you have a huge cost involved, naturally, common person cannot afford it. So this is how the relation between the higher education and various other determining factors. I don't know. And underrepresentation of students from a blue collar background. And yeah, this is what economically well off people can have higher education, but a blue collar persons will they be able to have access? That's where the inequalities have to be bridged, inequalities have to be reduced by the proper policies of the country's governments. Yeah, issues of access and quality, equity are not asked. In a developed country, these are not issues. Issue of access and equity, inequality. But in case of developing countries, in your country, not the same thing. In my country, these are the issues. They are same. In the developing country, that's what we are discussing. Their consent of costs are also in concern in our country, in my country. An immediate consequence of transition of higher education from elite to mass in the personal purpose education itself, mass higher education required that those who came out of university seek secure employment. Yeah. When you are going for a mass higher education, expanding your higher education, you have to see that the number of graduates who are coming from we are coming from the institution, they should be getting a reasonable employment or livelihood. So this is how the relation between the your higher education, the quality, producing good quality, and those who will be absorbed in the job market. That is just how one has to see that. Cost, we have already talked about it. Been rising, continuously rising costs. Transition of agri from elite to mass, and oh, governments in the developed world have been costs have been rising. The transition of higher education from elite to mass, education budgets are rising unprecedented levels in most countries. The governments in developed world have been struggling with the need to raise the allocation of resources. I think most of the governments in the developing countries, including your governments, their concentration is on the school education. So naturally, when it comes to the higher education, the governments are not in a position to allocate the resources for higher education. That's one of the hindrance. That's one of the drawback. That's one of the weakness of the any government of that. The allocation for education, most of the developing countries now stands at about 6% of the GDP, and no possibility of any further significant rise. I think this is where including in India, I think even 6% of the GDP we are not in a position to afford. Still, we are having a convention as less than 4%, around 4% only. When you will increase this to 6%, yeah, and this is one has to see that. Yeah. Okay, and then yeah, higher education in the developing countries, traditional definitions of the third world. Now the developing nations, earlier they call it the third world. We call developing. Low per capita income. Yeah, yeah, I think our country or in my country is the low per capita income. Uh, Low per capita income, low literacy rate, lack of social infrastructure. These are the very issues in any developing country. Uh, uh, I think if you want to become a developed nation, you have to address all those issues. I think that's what is precise. And since World War II, the world has, the whole has experienced tremendous political upheavals. Yeah, most of the countries, you know that, which is far-reaching impact on socio-economic dimensions. After the Second World War, many countries have undergone a tremendous changes in the society and socio-economic conditions. Yeah. And the post-independence expansion of higher education has been perceptibly quite dramatic. I think in case of India, we have talked about that. After you also asked the question, after the independence, the country has developed expanded the higher education network. Yes, I think that must be the true with many developing nations. And there are reasons for expansion of higher education, n number of regions, developing countries. So one significant consequence of the transition of education mass is the development of strong education. I think why this growth of higher education is when you link with the education and the employment.
Oh, now, like I was I was a engineer.
देखा कैसे कहाँ से आया
ब्लॉक 5 3 पे कितना था ये 2 3
20 members of 26 क्या तारीख है
16 सर
one second friends I will be coming back ठीक है
ठीक है ना सर
इसमें हो गया 25 हो
ये 2 3 ठीक है ना
गए
थैंक यू थर्ड कहाँ का किसको दूसरा
किसका
थर्ड
अरे सर है तो कमरे में।
वो बाहर से वो लगी हुई है उनका कोई स्टाफ वगैरह जो
इस कमरे में पूछना रोशन रोशन नाम का लड़का है
12 नंबर में
12 नंबर में पूछो रोशन या प्रकाश जो भी मिलेगा दे देंगे
ठीक है
रोशन या प्रकाश
ओके
friend sorry
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Somebody is asking a question. Somebody is asking a question. Anyhow, this is where the I think the higher education is gaining ground in any developing nation is because the moment I get a good higher education, I will get a better employment. So that is the linkage which is changing the face of higher education in any country, particularly developing countries. I want my child should have a higher education, good higher education, where he will get a good employment and a good. I think that's one of the reasons across the nations. Yeah. I think this is where higher education, the market, yeah, I think market is determining, market is dictating. That's what I told earlier also. Market is all about demand supply, yeah. I think once upon a time, India, even now, is known for producing the good quality graduates with a mathematics and physical sciences background. I think where they were in demand for the IT sector across the globe. I think you can see that the CEOs heading a big companies like companies Apple, big companies like Google, it was the Indian products. So why they said is the response that Indian graduates were in a demand because they are very strong in mathematics, physical sciences, and which are core to any present market-driven economy or IT sector. So this is where the higher education and the market are a close relation. Government have to find resources to create the facilities, and then of course teachers have to be trained in the new things, all those things. Also, the demand for education and training continues to rise rapidly, professionally. I think these are the major issues. I think the governments have to concentrate on that, and the private sector began to step in. I think in India it was initially it was a public funded institution. The government used to finance the fund the colleges and universities. Gradually, the private sector is also entering into the higher education sector. The private, I think in some of the countries like USA, it was a maximum in the private sector, the private university. The public funded institutions are very minimal. So in our case, it is a more of public funding and private institutions are few. But now the government is giving emphasis to the private institution to enter into the higher education. There was a resistance to that, but the government argument is government is not in a position to fund the higher education. That's why we are inviting the private institutions or private parties to start the universities and colleges. I think it has both a plus point and minus points, but this is the order of the day which is going on. I think what are the commonalities across the higher education institution in the developed world and the developing nations? The few characteristics of higher education in the developing world is colonial past. Yes, I think most of our countries were ruled by colonial. So naturally, we have that the impact of colonial ruling in your country or in my country, which still remains a major influence, even though we got the 75 years back independence, but still the language which we speak as a medium of instruction in India, a large extent it was in English, so it's the impact of that still. I think same is the case with your countries, whether it is ruled by the British or English, whether it is Spanish, whether it is the Spanish in Spain rule, like that. So this is how the system's common inheritance is on that. And the enrollment of dichotomy, a developed world functioning in the metropolis center with their key elements of intellectual life. I think the dichotomy between a metropolis, I think developed urban areas and the provincial or the remote areas or the away from the cities. This dichotomy is still there. These major constraints have drastically affected other equally important areas of education progress. I think this division, haves and have-nots, and the developed the cities, the metropolitan cities and the rural areas, this dichotomy is there. that is hindering in the education progress. Yeah. On the other hand, there is also view that the economy gets globalized, which is the order of the day, and the process of production and distribution of goods and services across the world get integrated. The language and indeed the medium of all trade commerce are getting progressively global. Yes, it's becoming global. So it's a global village, what we call it. But what is the impact of it? What is the problem in it? There are plenty of problems. There are plenty of advantages, plenty of disadvantages in the globalization. But this is the order of the day. You and I cannot stop it. Universities in developing countries, most universities in developing countries primarily based on Western models. That's what it precisely. We follow the Western model. Suppose in India, I think it's the Britishers models we still follow, and a few of the American models we follow. But academic infrastructure is inadequate. The problems is that we have inadequate academic support. That is the case with most of the higher education institutions in developing countries. Lack of academic support, lack of intellectual communication among the teachers necessary to stimulate a full range of scholarly activity. So these are the issues what we got. And then universities seldom have enough funds. Yeah, if you want to do a research, you need the funds. But if the government is giving the fund, if I want to do research, if my government or my institution doesn't give, that's I cannot quote. Many faculty members are busy with the teaching roles or more. So where is the time for doing the research? Research needs a lot of time, lot of resources. That's even today, the developing nations have not been able to free themselves totally from foreign influence. Until today, the developing nations are not doing. That's what I said. Foreign influence are the rulers, the colonial rulers. The continuing complex impact of industrialization is low. The obvious. There are many issues are there. And then oil-rich Arab nations, foreigners constitute the majority of teachers in those secondary. Developing like India and Egypt have an expatriate. I think this is how the Gulf countries, they have a oil-rich economies, and where the Indians and others go and serve there and teach them and they work them for them. Students from many developing countries have to go abroad for higher education. I think that's the case. I have seen in quite a few African countries, those who can afford. So everybody cannot go from Nigeria. Everybody cannot go from Ethiopia. Everybody cannot go from Malawi to study in the UK or USA. Those who can go, they do go and they study and then to go abroad for higher education. But I think now most of the African nations and developing nations are going for their own higher education institutions. I hope that should be the case. And I think what are the variations and approaches? Note what the future is. None of these nations have moved away from fundamentally Western models. Still, we follow the Western models, including India. I think when you are going for an expansion in the national development, you should go for your own models. Orientation of education policy in many countries witness significant shifts in direction. I think the policies should shift from the earlier this thing to present day contextual policies. Cuba, Vietnam, China have generally emphasized vocational. I think some of the countries have gone, okay, we don't want Western education, we want our own vocational technical aspects of post-secondary education. I think that's the examples are given in Cuba and these things. And they're stimulated by the thought, basically Western in origin. I think there's this, but I think the still Western impact you should overcome. That's what they said. Management of higher education development is a challenge. Higher education systems in your country and my country, regulations. I think we have we'll talk about more later also. We have regulatory agencies where the controls are I think yes, in a countries like India or any African country or any developing nation, control is important, but the control should not hinder the progress of the institution. That's what. That's what regulatorism, yes, to promote the quality, but if it hinder the progress, that's not a good. That's what we managing administration. Yeah, traditionally autonomy, significant autonomy for given, but autonomy has to be displayed by the institution or university. I think if the universities are interfered from the political influences, interfered from societal influences, that is not good for any institution, university. I think that's where I think approaches to higher education administration have evolved over the time, spanning legal systems, etc. I think systems grew and became more complex issues like governance, structures, management style. I think systems are developing. Maybe the same in our country, in my country, higher education systems. Many agencies are involved. That's what I said. Structures, different style. We have other 1,000 universities. All these universities follow the broad structure, but within the university there will be variation. The management styles are different because management style depend on the leader. So if the leader changes from after 4 years completion of term, new leader comes for a university, the style changes. And autonomy, what extent we are having the autonomy, what extent we are using the autonomy, and accountability, and these are the issues. Yeah. University finances is important. Higher education is a problem throughout the world. I think in our countries also. The finance is the biggest thing, particularly for the public funded institutions. If the government doesn't allocate the resources, I think that will hinder the total functioning of the university. I think that. I think now with the governmental priorities in the developing world is more on school education, less on higher education. That becomes another drawback. I think that's where I don't think now with the privatization, so when the public funded institutions are coming down and the private institutions are going, private institutions will raise the fees because they have to be self-sufficient. I think even public funded institutions are asked by the government's concern, you become a self-sufficient. If I want to become a self-sufficient mine as a public funded university, I have to increase the fees. I think these are the what we call the difficulty with the finances, and that's what the higher education is heavily subsidized by the government, and the large percent of the institutions in the public sector. This is what I've already explained. African universities tend to be expensive, insufficient, inadequately financed. All these problems, whether it's African countries or Asian countries, lack of equipment, lack of this is the common things which we fail. In Asia, government's funding per student in real terms generally 80s to it declined to 20% student in 1895. Revenue earned from education fee is low. I think the public funded institution, whether it's your country, the fee what I pay for higher education is very less, very less. So that fee will not take care of the university's finances. If you increase the fees, naturally the students will not be able to afford it. And the academic community, the situation of academics in the developing countries is paradoxical. There are numbers of an international community with links to traditional. Yeah, in the developing world, the colleagues will have a interaction with the best minds in their country and that. So that the best minds interacted, that will promote my academic scholarship, that will promote my research, which is not the case with, the developing nations. That interaction, the quality of research, quality of teaching has to be improved. I think the students and activism, you all know that. I think many countries have seen the student activism in the last 3-4 decades, whether it is Thailand, India, uh, China, many countries, including India. Student activism is another significant problem in the university management, I think. But we cannot stop the students. We have to raise the voice. If as a leader I am not able to manage my institution well, students will vote. I think if I'm not giving good quality education, this is where the management of education has to concentrate on. And problems, I've already talked about many problems. Many universities have common cultures, ethos. I think basic base. I think national differences. And when you see that different cultures exist within your, so in India, as I said, religious diversity, cultural diversity, linguistic diversity, economic diversity, and to run higher education institutions in that is a very difficult thing. I think this will give the strength and this will have problems, and you as an administrator, one has to face it. And curriculum and organization of the study, I think what type of curriculum you should have. If you want to maintain the age-old curriculum, actually that will not be relevant to the present day society, relevant to the present day's employment market. And if you want to follow your colonial masters pattern, I think you will not be doing justice to your students at this. Unless we have to change. That's the crux of the matter. Then curriculum in areas like education approaches have been partly adapted to indigenous needs, while areas such as engineering have gained the prominence. Now that in the modern day market, the subjects like engineering, management, commerce, prominence, naturally you have to go to the programs like that. I think that's when it comes to the language, as I said,
Hello, sir.
a British impact, naturally, our language of medium, particularly in higher education, is become English. But now many
Hello, sir.
the Union countries said that why don't we go for the mother tongue?
Hello, sir.
India, multi languages, whether it is the mother tongue is Hindi, mother tongue is English, mother tongue is Telugu, I like that. So can we develop a higher education or impart higher education through mother tongue? It is good, but the implementation it needs a lot of it. Okay. Uh,
Hello.
21st century, yeah. Now we entered into the 21st century, university in the modern society preserve many of the key elements. I think the 21st century has brought a globalization. World has become a village, and, the and students are moving from one country to other country to seek higher education. I think this brings a whole lot of a change to the 21st century. Particularly, it has impact. 21st century is a challenge to the higher education institution. Whether it is an issue, research knowledge, research is a core issue. I think one has to join the thing. And if you want to do private resources and public responsibility, it is the two aspects. Whether you want to promote the private institution and the public responsibility, how do you do it? Every country, the role of the private sector increasing. That's what I said it. I think when the private sector is increasing, what should be the issue of that? I think, friends, I have taken a long time to cover the thing. I think that's where the higher education in the private sector. Let me stop the presentation. Yeah. That's where we discussed the two units. One is the Indian specific higher education, the first unit, and the second, the higher education in the developing countries where we have very commonalities, and whether it comes of culture, whether it comes of language, whether it comes of economy, we all face a problem. Let me stop. Any questions or any things you want to? Michael, assuming had raised their hands. Michael, where are you? Michael, you have to ask. You want to, and then Abba Masood, raise the hands. You have increase the volume, sir. I can hardly hear.
Yes, sir.
Sterling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a few questions that I would like to
Who
ask.
is asking about?
Sorry, is Michael talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ask your question.
Mm, Yeah, yeah. I thought like Michael is still alive.
Okay. You ask. You ask.
Yeah. Okay, Michael. Okay, let's Michael. Okay, he's not. Yeah. Yeah, in the Indian context, higher education context, nomenclature, there is MTech, ME, and MSc. Are they the same? Like in terms of employment? Because I have a friend of mine once told me that those with MTech have higher chance of getting employment compared to those with MA and MSc. And yeah, just like in Nigeria, higher education, we have those with the HND, high national diploma, and those with bachelor degree. So those with bachelor degree got higher payment, even though like they got employed at the same level, like in the civil service. So I wonder if the system is the same in India or there is a slight difference.
Yeah. Okay. Abba, you are from you are from Nigeria? Abba, are you from Nigeria? Abba Masood?
Yeah, I'm from Nigeria.
Okay.
I'm from Nigeria.
Where are you working?
That's right.
What is your qualification?
I'm working with the university.
You have
Yeah,
done your university.
I got MSc in civil engineering.
Okay, MSc Civil Engineering. Okay, yeah. Okay, it's a good question. Abbas, a good question. What is the difference between MTech, Master of Technology, is a professional program, and Master of Engineering is a postgraduate program again. MSc Engineering, that's also professional program. Abba has done MSc Civil Engineering. Am I correct? Yeah, he has done MSc Civil. I have done MSc in
Yes.
MA in Sociology. Yeah, he has done MSc Engineering. I have done MA in
Sorry?
Sociology. You see the difference? Both are postgraduate degrees. Both are postgraduate degrees. MA in Sociology is MTech in Engineering. So what are the prospects in the public employment market? So naturally, professional degree, MSc Civil Engineer, have a
Yeah, in the job market.
little more prospects and job market. For me, MSc Sociology, either I should become a teacher in a university or a college or a school, but I don't have the much prospect in the other sectors. That's the basic difference. Okay? Suppose MA English, I have done my MA English, I cannot go to the industry. MA English, I cannot go to the industry. But MSc Civil Engineering, MSc Mechanical Engineering, MSc Chemical Engineering, they can enter the industry, which has a broader scope. This is how, in place of MA English, I have to become a teacher of English in the school. I have to become a college teacher. I have to become. So this is how the degrees and as she said it. Then in India we have a Master of Arts in Arts and Humanities and Social Sciences, MSc programs in Physics, Mathematics, MSc in Chemistry, MSc in Biology, MSc in Life Sciences. There are different degrees, but all of them do not have the same footing.
So how about the duration?
Pardon?
How about the duration of the program?
It is after, yeah.
The duration
After 3 years
four-year
of graduation,
program? Like
the
for example,
post-graduation, 2 years. After 3 years of my BA, I have done a 2 years of masters in a sociology. 3 years undergraduate, 2 years postgraduate. Okay. So in the job market, all of them
it's
do
the
not
same
have the
regardless
same equal footing.
of MTech or MSc is the same. The duration is the same.
Yeah, MTech and MSc is the same. But
Okay, the only
potential,
difference
you
in the
raise
job
the issue.
market. How about in the public service?
Yeah,
I mean in the civil
job
service.
market, it is not.
In the civil
Yeah,
service.
it's not the same. It's a problem. It's a problem. Suppose here we have the Bachelor of Engineering, a student who has done a Bachelor of Engineering, and the student who have done a BA in Sociology, BA in Economics. So the Bachelor of Engineering, BE or BTech, will have a more opportunities in the industry than a BA in a Sociology or BA in Economics. So this is how both are graduates. He is a professional graduate, he is a general graduate. So naturally, this is how the variations and divisions. I think this is where nowadays the higher education is thinking, rather than going for the pure disciplines like sociology, pure disciplines like history, pure disciplines like economics, pure disciplines like political science, can you bring the interdisciplinary approach so that you can develop a knowledge as well as the competency and skill, you bring it together so that a graduate will be having a little more prospectus when he goes to the job market. I think this is where the thinking started, particularly in the New Education Policy 2020. That's what I referred a bit earlier. Rather than offering a pure programs which will not have a much scope for the employment market, can you bring the knowledge and you bring the skill components in every discipline together so that the graduate will have a little more scope for entering into the job market. I think this is where. I think, Abba, you agreed? You got the answer? I hope you got the answer, Masood. Abba Masood, yeah. Any other question? Any other question? Okay. No questions. I think students also attendance has come down to 15, 16, 17 only. 17 minus means only 15 students are there. I think students are also must be getting bored and leaving the session class. Maybe it will be helpful to you, those who are listening. And if you are not listening, naturally that will be a problem. If you listen, so you'll be in a better position to go through the material and get the comprehend it. I think it will be helpful. You can communicate to other colleagues who are not attending the sessions. Attend the session, get the benefit of it. Otherwise, naturally, clearing the assignments and the examination will be difficult. I think that's only my suggestion. I think the last class I have given the activity. I think not many of you have not done except Najatu has done it. So I am giving another activity now before closing this session. I have explained in detail the higher education system in India. Okay, higher education system consisting of colleges, consisting of universities, consisting of professional institutions, consisting of various agencies like University Grants Commission, Teacher Education Commission, Technical Education, like that. So we have a very large network of institutions and regulatory agencies or agencies in the administration of higher education. That's the unit 1. And the unit 2, I talked about the developing country scenario, more or less similar with a little variation. What I explained the unit 1 India specific, what I explained in the unit 2, that is any developing country specific. Okay, keeping these 2 units together, you prepare what is the gist of it, what you got it, the main points of the unit 1, main points of the unit 2, what I explained today. Am I clear? Main points of the unit 1 of India specific higher education, main points of the unit 2, that is the developing country specific, more or less the same one. Main points, noting down those main points in the both units related to your own country, like what Najatu did in the previous class. You note down the main points of your country's higher education and link it with your country's and equate with your country's specific. That's my task. Is it okay? Is it
Excuse
okay?
me, sir.
Yes, Moses.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Are you asking us to summarize the what you
Yes.
taught us today?
Summarize the unit 1 and unit 2 what I discussed today. While summarizing it, can you relate it to your country's structures and country's process? Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Then can we still do the last week lesson, the activity?
Last week lesson activity also many of you are not done except Najatu. So I request those who have
Can we
not
still
done the previous, try to,
can we still do it, sir?
Can you sit with whom?
Can we still do it?
Yeah,
I mean, can we
do.
still
You
do
can
the
do
activity? Then, sir,
yeah,
are we
activity
to
1. Yeah.
are we to
Activity
submit it?
1
Are
and
we going to submit it?
no need to submit it, but at least we'll discuss in the next class. I want suppose Najatu has presented it, I discussed it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So, okay. So this is why I am giving this activity is you will think what you heard, you will concretize what you heard, and relate it to your country specific, which will help you in preparing the assignment, which you have to submit it, and in preparing for your final examinations. I think that's my purpose of giving the activities to both. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Maris. I think one of my requests to all of you is ask your other colleagues from your country who have enrolled but not attending the classes. Ask them to join the classes so that they will get the benefit of it. That's only my request. It's an opportunity. Abbas, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Abbas, you want to ask something?
No, sir. Actually, I just want to say thank you, sir. We are much grateful.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Anybody wants to have anything? Otherwise,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
I am Ahmed Mohammed.
Muhammad, come on. What do you want?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was unable to attend the meeting today due to network problem.
Who you could not attend?
Yes, sir. It was now that the team connect.
Okay, okay. In that case, the recording of this will be available on the LMS platform. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You go through that. You go through.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. I don't know. Maybe it's only me, but I discovered that when I checked through the LMS,
yeah,
I didn't see any current video there. The videos that were there, they were previous video. So I don't know. Maybe it's only me, or maybe I didn't get how to check it.
I think for that you have to contact your the coordinating regional center, that is the Dehradun Regional Center, which is coordinating this activity. I think you have their email ID. You talk to them, you write to them. I am not getting the recordings on the video, so they will upload and present it to you. Okay? Yeah. I will also inform them to upload the recordings, and I will ask them to inform you where you will get those things. I will also be in touch with them. Okay? Yeah. Aliyu?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. My question is regarding the assignment. Can we start forwarding those assignments if we can cover it up, those assignments that we are given in each module or unit?
You have assignments in your hand, Aliyu?
Yes, sir. Can we? Yes. I have some assignment because where I am, there is a very poor network due to insecurity.
Yeah. Okay. The assignment questions, maybe next session we will talk about that. Okay. And now I am going by the unit-wise discussion. Maybe next time I'll go by the assignment-wise discussion. Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me, Aliyu?
Yes, I said, can we forward some of this assignment before the due date?
No, that will be the assignment uploaded on the net. That is the final assignment. You have to do that. To help you, I will discuss those questions in the next session.
All right, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Because where we are having a very bad or poor network.
I understand. I understand. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, friends. It's a long session. I request you, if you know colleagues from your own country who have joined, ask them to join the sessions, which will get the benefit. You also try to attend the sessions. You also try to go through the soft copy of the material available on the LMS so that you can relate what we are discussing. And you will also do the activity what I am giving at the end of each session, which will concretize your learning. Okay? Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. We are so much grateful.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. See you in the next class. See you in the next class.
Thank you.